All right. What's going on, y'all? I had to get off my panel with Rashawn. This is Canaan in the Phoenician period, and we're gonna start here with the natural notification of the culture, and it talks about. We're going to talk about how the Egyptians, Sumerians, and Hophrians, and Cretans, and Elamites, and Nubians were literally 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago. Who knew how many thousand years before the world had ever heard of Greeks and Romans? But there's a simple evidence of their literacy. Yet there's no one single entry describing any of the people of their times, whether it be friends, foes, and invaders. Even more incredibly, there is not one single entry describing invading whites in any of their literature. Contrast that to Greek and Roman writings, in which these are newly literate people describing everything and everyone. So yeah, I'm gonna check my little stream thing upcoming. I want to check it's in the chat. So y'all give me a second. I know this is I'm gonna put educational. Yeah, I won't put that in there because I'm see who's in there. Yeah, how to get set up. So yeah, they know I'm not streaming, so I know some people in here. Okay. I'm gonna put this in here. So yeah, I'm just looking at this. This is like the one I'm gonna show you, and this is talks about the kingdom Damascus. That's like Syria, the kingdom of Ammon, the Rabbit from Ammon, and the tribes, the Armenian tribes, Assyrian Empire, the Phoenician states, and Su, and there's Kingdom Edom and Petra, Mount Petra. Edom, they call it Abaru tribes, known as Arab tribes, Nabutu tribes. This is like, little biblical stuff and things like that, or culture. Ancient Canaan, first place outside of Africa, where ancient men first became settled in agriculture, and then evacuations and things like that. Canaan from the Paleolithic and Mesolithic times. At the site of ancient cities of Jericho, advanced evidence revealed the settlement communities and agricultural way of life had existed since about 9,000 BCE. Jericho plaster skulls. Here's the people. That's what they look like. Ugh, disgusting. And Jericho developed large settlements, individuals, sustainable floors and houses. Yeah, they've been before Africa, but it's all one landmass like Asia. So, you got your 4,000 and all that. It's not that much I won't get into. And that's the Sheehan steel depicted the king and the prince. Crematic titles depicting the Lebanon people from the Temple of Ramesses III, reign 1186 to 1155 BCE, 20th century. And that's what the people look like with the hair and things like that. Yeah, and the culture and all that. So, showing Egyptian culture and all that stuff. Canaan. Temple of Hatshep, or something like that. So yeah. So we're not gonna get into this. We're gonna talk about Canaan. Number 2. We're gonna go modern Palestine, Israel, and Lebanon. Yeah, we're gonna talk about in Canaan, like elsewhere in the region. People went to develop in an advanced civilization. They live in large cities with magnificent places and temples, but they had writing of mathematics and a calendar. They also became great artisans, creating beautiful works of art. In the main cities of Canaan were Jericho, Yirgret, and Tyre, and Sidon, and Iblia, and Biblios, and Lachish, and Hazor, and Megiddo, and Jerusalem, and later the North African Phoenician settlement of Carthage. Like all the other ancient societies, the Canaanites had many gods, but their main gods were El and his son Baal, with El being the supreme god, means power. That's what they call it, El. So you got your golden Asri 1800 BCE, this little thing right here, the Canaanite god of El 1300 BCE. You got your little thing. Here are some of the modern names of ancient origin, with which evoked the name of El, Michael, he who is like God. Daniel, God is my judge. Gabriel, strong man of God. Gamaliel, benefit of God, Haziel, and one of the seeds of God, Emmanuel, God is with us. Ishmael, God will hear. Israel, God content. And they show you the pictures right here. My man, this scholar, he really improved. Egyptian memorial stone of mercenary leavening and soldiers drinking beer in the company of his Egyptian wife. Child, 18th dynasty, 1350 BCE. Egyptian memorial stone of a mercenary Lebanite soldier drinking beer in the company of his Egyptian wife. Child, 18th dynasty, 13 BCE. The close-up. Here's the close-up. The main Canaanite goddess was Athrite, Asherah, Assyrian, the Lady of the Sea, or Elat. The goddess she was El, love, consorting, is protective mother of her 70 children, who may have also as the gracious gods to whom she is both mother and nursemaid. Initially, Astrea is one of her children, but over time, the two became merged in some cultures. Canaanite goddess were worshipped in many lands under the different names. But the Lady of Galeria, probably the goddess of Aethrid, 600 BCE, the figurine was found in the Temple of Galeria, Spain, probably a Phoenician manufacturer. Phoenicians established colonies in Iberia during 1100 and 900 BCE. She sits between the two sphinx and holds a bowl for liquid and pour from the two holes in her breast. The figure shows Egyptian and Mesopotamian influences. Yeah, this is the first time I've seen this on this picture. First, I've seen these old pictures I showed y'all before, but this one is new. That old boy Evan, he's been traveling. So I want to see who's in here, and this is one person in here. Cool. Let's just say this for a minute. To this link, I should have gave you number one link, but we'll get that in a second. This is like part one, and I'll show you all the links that's in here. But throughout the existence of Canaan's history was one of the Egyptians' domination. Sometimes this took the form of loose oversight, and sometimes it took the form of direct overlordship with the garrison troops. The reason for this close-up involvement was that Canaan provided a buffer zone for Egypt's security and was the route in going north and east for Egyptian trade and military excursions. Not to mention that the famous Canaanite cedar trees that Egypt was dependent upon for its building projects, later called the cedars of Lebanon. The introduction of the bronze in the earlier Bronze Age, 3000 2000 BCE, brought about a cultural revolution marked by a development of metallurgy and decline in pottery. By the Middle Bronze Age, 2000 and 1550 BCE, Amorites, who were originally nomads from the desert regions to the east, southern Anatolia, modern Turkey, had penetrated Canaan and were inhabiting the hilly areas around the cities. From these hills, they launched raids and harassment attacks against the cities. But the tomb of Sebek Hotep was important treasury official in the reign of Thutmose IV, 1400 and 1390 BCE, bearing the title overseer of the seal and in effect in the ministry of finance. He was a son of Men, who had held the same title in Thutmose III's reign, and it's likely that Sebek Hotep was a mayor of the Fayum region before attaining his highest title in Thebes. As his father came from the Delta, it is possible that, as many like other Theban officials, he came south at the king's request. But the wall from which his fragment came almost certainly showed Sebek Hotep receiving the produce of the Lebanon and Africa, which he then presented to the king. A scene like this would have been placed in his tomb to illustrate his importance as an official, to represent his relationship with the king, so that it would be reflected in his life after death. And that's the pictures that you're seeing right now. In addition to the Amorites and the invaders included, that the Horites of the Old Testament also came to the Canaan from the north. The late Bronze Age, 1550 and 1200 BCE, was marked by incursions of new Amorite marauders. They were Amorites displaced by the fall of the Hamburian dynasty in Babylon. As it were over time, the nomadic Amorites were joined by Amorites who had previously been in Mesopotamia, so that by now the total of these Amorites had become the dominant element of the population in Canaan. Many of these Amorites, such as the biblical Abraham, continued on to Egypt. In Genesis 11:27-32, now that these generations of Terah began Abram, Nair, or Haran, and Haran began Lot, and Haran died before his father Tehran in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldeans, Sumer. The land of the Chaldeans, or that's what they call them, Chaldeans, known as in Sumer, the Sumerians, right? And Abram and Nahor took them wives, and the name of Abram's wife was Sarah, and the name of Nahor's wife is Milcah, the daughter of Haran and the daughter of Milcah, and the father of Iscah. But Sarah was barren; she had no child. But Terah took Abram's his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarah's daughter-in-law, and his son Abram's wife. They went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldeans to go into the land of Canaan. They came unto Haran, Anatolian city, dwelt there, and the days of Terah, Terah were to the 205 years. But Terah died in Haran. In Genesis 12:9-12, Abram journeyed going on toward the south, and there was a famine in the land. Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. Yep. That's the cultures that we read. Canaanite god wearing a teeth crown, gold-plated statue of a Canaanite god of El right here. We're talking about Canaanites right now. In Egypt, these Amorites, known as Hebrew, Hepiru, one who sells his service, whether these service were as mercenaries or tradesmen is unknown. In the time, the number of Amorites in the northern Egypt was sufficient to overthrow Egyptian rule and establish an independent region of Egypt ruled by Amorites. Since known as the Hyksos, foreign kings or shepherd kings, the Egyptian historian Mantheo and the trader Hebrew Josephus Flavius both wrote of the Amorite coup as an invasion, but there is no evidence of an invasion. Apparently, it was a gradual takeover. The Egyptian history in the Hyksos comprised the 15th dynasty. Mantheo on the Hyksos and Mantheo is it Agagitica or something like that? Mantheo, I don't say Mantheo. Fragment 42 and page 175 to 79.2. Thomas historian known as Pharaoh in this region for what cause I know not. A blast of God smote us unexpectedly from the region of the east. Invaders of the scared race marched in confidence of victory against our land. By many force, they easily overpowered the rulers of the land, but they then burned our cities, were ruthlessly razed to the ground to the temples of the gods, treated all the natives with a cruel hostility, masquerading some and leading into slavery the wives and the children of others. Finally, they appointed as the kings one of their number, whose name was Salitis. He had his seat at the Memphis Lavian tribute from Upper and Lower Egypt, leaving garrisons behind in most advantaged positions above all. He forfeited the district to the east, and foreseeing that the Assyrians, as they grew stronger, would one day covet it and attack his kingdom. In his Syed and Sithra and Nome, he found a city of very favorable situated on the east of the Babasite branch of the Nile and called Avrius. after an ancient religious tradition. This place he rebuilt and fortified with the massive walls and planting. There are garrisons of many as 240,000 heavy armed men to guard his frontier. He went he went and come in summertime party to serve our rations and paid his troops partly to train them carefully in maneuvers and so strike terror into the foreign tribes. A Libyan, I'll say a Libyan, Canaanite, Syrian, Nubian, both bowed to the Pharaoh of I would say the 23rd dynasty. Wow, interesting. Josephus Flavius quoted the message concerning his skulls, Benthea Apicia, Flavius again a Papian, slightly different. This book 17. Okay. It talks about what in that book. So it's kind of irrelevant in this point. Okay, the bold, balding head Syrian picture above is only infrequently shown in ancient art. They're sometimes shown with hair, but always as big-headed large people. Might they be biblical giants said to live the north of Israel? Relief of Levantine prisoners. Yeah, these are Syrians. That's what they look like. Some big-ass people. Tomb of Hormhead. That's what they look like in the picture y'all see. I'll say Joshua or Joseph 15 and 8. That's in the Bible, but in Torah it's called his name is Joshua. And the border went up by the valley of the son of Hinnom until the south of the Jebusite. The same is Jerusalem. The border went up and to the top of the mountain that lieth before the valley of Hinnom westward, which is at the end of the valley of the giants northward. Mm-hmm. It's showing right here. Assyrian relief from Sargon's palace at the Dur Sarakin Levant workmen loading Phoenician boats with the cedar logs for transport to Assyria. Numbers 13, Numbers 25. They returned from searching of the land after 40 days. Verse 26, and they went and came to Moses and to the Aaron and to all the congregation of the children of Israel or Israel until the wilderness of Paran and to Kadesh, brought back word unto them, and unto all of them congregation shewed them the fruit of the land. Verse 27, and they told him and said, we came unto the land whither thou sent us. Surely it floweth with milk and floweth with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. Verse 28, nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. Verse 29, the Amalekites, known as Edomites, dwelled in the land of the south, and the Hittites, we known as Hattians. There's no such thing as a Hittite. I did a pre-record on that. See, in the Bible, that say Hittites was actually pronounced Hattian. The Hattian people, the Hattians, and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwelled in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwelled by the sea, by the coast of Jordan. But verse 30, and Caleb stilled the people before Moses, said, let us go up to at once, opposes it, for we are well able to overcome it. Verse 31, but the men that went up with him and said, we be not be able to go up against the people, for they are the stronger than we. Verse 32, and they were brought up in an evil report of the land, which they had searched unto the children of Israel, or Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone in the search, and it is as a land, the eating of the inhabitants of therefore all of the people that we saw in it are men of a great stature. Verse 33, and there saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants. We were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. That's in Numbers. Correct. Yeah. The Hyksos and all that, that's debatable. Okay, we're indeed driven out of Egypt by Egyptian king of Atmos I and were allowed to settle in Canaan. This is only known event in Egyptian history, similar to the biblical Exodus. His reign is usually dated at about 1550 and 1525 BCE. See the Egyptian history for more. The Hyksos presence in Canaan only added to calamity there 200 years later. By the time of Pharaoh Akhenaten, 1350 to 1330 BCE, there was still disorder. The time of Akhenaten, known as Amenhotep IV, or some people call him Akhenaten or Akhenaten, the Aten. The upheaval in Canaan eventually drew the attention of the Egyptian king. The Egyptian troops were dispatched to Canaan in the attempt to eradicate the Hebrew threat. This is the letter of the Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten in reference to the Hebrew Amorites sums up the situation as well. A letter from Abdul Hibia of Jerusalem, Jerusalem. To the king, my lord, thus speaks the Abdul Hibi, your servant, at the feet of the king, my lord. 7 times and 7 times I prostrate myself. What I have done to the king, my lord? But they blame me before the king, my lord, saying Abdul to the king, my lord. I mean, Abdul Hibi has, okay, rebelled against the king, my lord. I am here. As far as I'm concerned. It was not my father nor my mother who put me to in this position. Their arm of the powerful king led to me in the house of my fathery. What I would commit, when I made a commitment, transgress against the king, my lord. While the king of my lord lives, I will say, in the commission of the king, my lord, why do you do me a favor? Hapiru and are opposed to the rulers. And thus I accuse before the king and my lord, because it was said that lost are the territories of the king, my lord. Thus I calumniated before the king, my lord. But made the king, my lord, know that when the king sent a garrison, Yanahamu, the Egyptian commissioner in Canaan, sees everything. And in the land of Egypt, O king, my lord, there are no garrison troops. Yeah, no garrison troops there. Therefore, the king of take care of his land, made the king take care of his land and the territories, and the king rebelled. And Eliamiku caused the loss of all the territories of the king, made the king take care of his land. So that's the letter of the Egyptian situation. So, you know what I'm saying? And Canaanite god is possibly Athret, and Nebrion 17 BCE. The god was where locate, yeah, there you go. So that's what I was saying. And, you had your Canaanites and things like that. So just give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Oh, I'm back. Let's see. Yeah, I know people coming in here. Okay. Let's see. Up here. All right. Repeat. Allow me to enter the presence of the king, my lord, and let me. Okay, he's got more. Okay. I'll repeat again. Okay. I repeat. Allow me to enter the presence of the king, my lord, and let me look into both eyes of the king, my lord. But the hostility against me is strong, and I cannot enter the presence of the king. My lord, may the king and send garrison troops in order that I may enter and look into the eyes of the king, my lord. So certain as the king, my lord, lives, when the commissioners come, and I will say, lost are the territories of the king. Do you not hear to me? All the rules are lost. The king of my lord does not have a single ruler left. May the king direct his attention to the archers, and I will say, and may the king, my lord, send troops of the archers. The king has no more lands. The Hapiru sacked the territories of the king. If there are archers here this year, all the territories of the king will remain intact. But if there are no archers, the territories of the king, my lord, will be lost to the king. My lord, thus writes Abdul Hebia, your servant. He conveys eloquent words to the king, my lord. All the territories of the king, my lord, are lost. Here's the Phoenicians. Here we go with this. Here we go. Here's the Phoenicians. About 1200 BCE, all of the invasions and wars have started to squeeze the Canaanites. Some of them moved north along the Mediterranean coast to what today modern Lebanon. This became known as the Phoenician culture, a Greek term for those Canaanites who moved north. Develop a new civilization on the coast of what is now modern Lebanon, Lebanese. Yeah. Phoenician busts from the Phoenician period in Spain. Tradition has that the Phoenicians founded the city of Gadir, or Cadiz in southwest Spain in 1100 BCE to exploit the natural resources in the area. House in Amezio del Cadiz, Spain. The Phoenicians, okay. Okay, Palace of Ashimrashe Pala II, Phoenician, bringing monkeys, Neo-Assyrians in 883, 859 BCE. This is like the Phoenicians right here. Phoenicians bringing gifts for the Persian king or Persepolis relief, 5th century BCE. The Phoenicians were active merchants who traded throughout the Mediterranean, established colonies as far away as Spain. Best known of these Phoenician colonies was Carthage, one of the most famous cities of antiquity. It was founded on the north coast of Africa by the Phoenicians of Tyre. In 814 BCE, it is from here that the great Phoenician general Hannibal, his name Joy of Baal, talking about Hannibal. Hannibal was a Phoenician. Will launch his historical wars against Rome. Phoenicians are best known for spreading a system of writing known as the alphabet to the Western civilizations. The story of Hannibal. I did a piece on do a series of Hannibal, Aramura Karbi. They did a piece on Hannibal. And the rise of Hannibal and things like that. This is a future stream and talk about, I'll do a piece of Hannibal. I don't get that book, Babylon Timbuktu. So, yeah. The Phoenician ivory, Nimrod. Phoenician ivory, Nimrod again. Okay. And here we go. Sarcophagus Eshamanazar II, king of Sidon, circa 450 BCE. You see right here with the tomb. Relief from Sargon II, palace of Dur Sarukin, showing Phoenician boats with their characteristics of horse heads, stamp posts, Stern Post is transporting cedar logs off the coast of Lebanon, Liverpool. Yeah, that's the type of boats. Relief of the Sargon II Palace of Dura Sarukin, showing the Phoenician men hauling cedar logs ashore. Phoenicians manned their ships in service of the Assyrian kings of Sennacherib during his war against the Chaldeans in the Persian Gulf. Phoenician ship carved in the sarcophagus in 100 CE. While institution mummies of war, white falsifications, yeah. Embrace of being attacked by lions. Lioness. Techno boys circa 800 BCE from the palace of Ashur in Nimrod. Yeah. A Mesopotamian art in New York, cities in ivory, medieval art, smoky leopard skins. Yeah. It's the coins. Silver Carthage, family of Hannibal. Yeah. Yeah. This is like number 2. Let me get y'all part 1 in the link. I'm gonna let y'all have Canaan if y'all want to read this for yourself. I covered this before. I'm gonna put this in the live chat. I know people are not interested in this topic because I know this is afternoon, everybody's streaming. We're gonna paste this in the chat, and we're gonna dump this off in here. And second one, we're gonna do this right. I know people don't be bothered with it. This ain't no open panel or anything, so I don't know. Yeah, man. Let's go. I'm only going to do Canaan 3 and 4 today, but I will do a part 2 tonight. The 5 and 6 and 7 we're going to continue, and we're going to just deal with it. So we just did 2. We're going to do 3. When was the last left of Canaan? The Canaanites were being squeezed out by the new Amorite invaders. Now more pressure was being put on the Canaanites by another group of Amorites. This group had just been expelled from Egypt when they were known as the Hyksos. These Amorites, Hebrews, settled in Canaan also. Hebrew numbers had already been greatly increased in the second wave of semi-nomadic Hebrew tribes, also by many settled Canaanites and the Gibeonites who joined the invaders against their cities' dwelling neighbors. Now, with the additions of these new Hyksos, who by virtue of their experience in Sumer and Egypt were educated and highly skilled, the Hebrews could now began to build a country. Wars raged and cities were destroyed. Hebrews began building amid the ruins of the cities that they have destroyed and and new settlements sprang up rapidly all throughout the hill country. The first Hebrew king was selected by the prophet Samuel, a prophet of great influence and authority. Samuel is depicted in various biblical accounts as either favoring the region of human king over Israel. In any case, he anointed Saul, a courageous military leader of the tribe of Benjamin, but in the Hebrew it's called Benjamin, as the first king in about 1,000. I'll say 1020 BCE. It is not clear if Samuel consulted with others, such as the similar, before making his appointment. Stats below were identified as Hisco stats by the eminent Francis Augustus and 18, French scholar, anthropologist, blah, blah, blah. We don't get into that. Hisco's King Agapi, Greek, 16th dynasty. Here we go. It's keeping the lies and falsification of the Turks who currently rule Egypt, so-called Arab, blah, blah. Here we go. Ahmed the third, sixth, and king of the 12th dynasty. Here we go. Yeah, the Egyptians and all the heads. See, it's the Hebrews. I ain't gonna get in that long read. I'm gonna skip that. Let's go to the Shashu. Shashu is an Egyptian word for Semitic speaking pastoral cattle nomads who appeared in the Levant from the late Bronze Age to the early Iron Age, or third immediate period of Egypt. They were organized in clans under the tribal chieftain and were described as bring-ons and acted from the Jezreel Valley of Ashkelon and the Sinai. But the name evolved from the transliteration of the Egyptian word Sisal, meaning those who moved on foot. In the term from Bedouin type wanderers, the term first originated in the 15th century, listed people in Transjordan. It is used in all lists of enemies inscribed on the column based on the temples Soled and built by Amenhotep III, copied by later Seti I, Ramesses II, and Amun-Ra the West. The list mentions 6 groups of Shashu, and the Shashu of Ser, Shashu of Libyan, and the Shashu of Esmet, and Shashu of Warbi, and Shashu of YHW, and Shashu of PYSPS. Okay. So, yeah. So, yeah, you can look this up. Canaan, we're going to go number 4. I'm going to drop you a few links. This may not be long. It's 37 streams. We're going to talk. We're going to put this up in here for quick. And y'all can look this up. So, we in here. Philistia. The Philistines are believed to have been Cretans who were a part of the Sea People invasion of Egypt, 1100 BCE, after Ramesses III defeated them. He allowed them to settle in Canaan. They settled in the southern coastal plain of Canaan, but within 150 years after their settlement, they would conquer much of the region. Before that, Cretans, along with the Egyptians, built the first modern city in Greece, called Messenia, which is evolved into the Messenian civilization. The connection between the Messenian culture and the Philistine culture was made clearer by the finds that the evacuation of Ashdod, Erechon, and Ashkelon. More recently, Gath, 4 of the 5 Philistine cities in Canaan. The 5th city is Gaza. Especially notable is the early Philistine pottery, locally made versions of the Aegean, Messenian, late Heldic, 3rd century pottery, which is decorated in the shades of brown and black. This later developed into the distinctive Philistine pottery of the Iron Age 1 with the black and red decorations on white slip, known as the Philistine Bickeromware. As you can see, the picture right here, Gear Hall. Yeah, let's see how long I got in the stream. It's 40 something minutes. Yeah. So, I'm gonna kill it right now so we know what time it is. The Philistine cities lost their independence of, I don't say, dependence of Tiglath-Pileser III of Assyria. By 732 BCE, revolts in the following years were all crushed. They were subsequently absorbed into the Babylonian and Persian empires. It disappears as a distinctive group by the late 5th century BCE. This is really cool. So, yeah, this is the Philistine Hamananu of Gaza, showing on his knees in front of the Assyrian king, Tiglath-Pileser III, stone relief from the wall decoration of Tiglath-Pileser, the palace at Kaluhu. There he goes, the Assyrian kings of Assyria. Biblically, the Philistines are known as the sworn enemies of Israel of David and Goliath fame. The Takria of the Philistines relieved from the Median Habu temple. That's the Philistines right here. They were Africans. Continuous Saul, however, was substantial victorious over the Philistines, Ammonites, Amalekites are Edomites, by the way. And for the time, the Philistines' advance were stopped by Saul and the son of Joshua were killed in a disastrous battle with the Philistines in central Palestine. Saul's successor, David, a former aide, and also his son-in-law, who had previously fallen out in favor of him, and at the first took over his only rule of Judah in the south, 1010 BCE, and then all of Israel by 1000 BCE. There you go. First Bristol Pester, capture of David by the Philistines, and Gath, one of the Philistine cities. Talking about David. Through his superior military administrative abilities, political acumen, David was able to establish unified rule over all of Israel. He cleared the territory of Philistines in the absence of any competing foreign power in an area, created his own petty empire over neighboring cities, states, people he established in his capital in Jerusalem, what we call it, or Jerusalem, which until he maintained its independence as a Canaanite city, waged as it were between the territories of Saul, Benjamin tribe, and David's Judah tribe. These are southern tribes of Israel. From his Bristol, 1050, David in the cave of Adullam. From Bristol, King David. Okay, meanwhile, other peoples were east of Jordan River, the Edomites in the south, and the Moabites to the east of the Dead Sea, and the Ammonites on the edge of the Syrian desert, east of Galilee. These people were considered by the Hebrews to be fellow Hebrews, Amorites. They were. Edomites is the so-called, the red race, or which we call the Caucasian or white race. Yeah, blood through their skin. Yeah, I confirmed that in my old pre-records. And and the Moabites, that's a whole nother topic. But they established several communities even before the Hebrew invasion of Canaan. But they did not accept the Hebrew religion and remained polytheists. Reverse of relief of the Sea People soldier, Median Habu Temple. There he goes, the picture right here. Philistia, Abia coin, 400 and 500 BCE. Philistia, shekel, 400 and 500 BCE. Coin. Philistia, quarter, shekel, 400 and 500 BCE. Different coin version. Philistia, quarter, mile, Abia, 400 BCE. Same thing. Philistia. Yeah. So what we got here, man? I mean, you got time on your hands. And the pause is here for the curiosity. The name Israel means God contended in the Canaan Hebrew language. God referred to as the Canaan God of El, not the Hebrew God of, they try to say Yahweh. It's not the same Yahweh. The God in the scriptures is really pronounced Yahweh, but that's a whole nother. I mentioned that in my old pre-records. Under David's son Solomon, 922 BCE, Israel became a thriving commercial power. Numerous and impressive buildings were erected, including the magnificent temple, the symbol of the religious and political unity of Israel. A large harem for foreign princesses was acquired for Solomon. These marriages served the purpose of sealing relations with other states, but the country has been divided into 12 districts for the administrative supply, taxation purposes. But the foreign cults that have been a step up to serve the king's foreign wives and foreign traders have now led the charges of idolatry, apostasy by religious conservatives in the latter years of his reign. Solomon's unpopular policies, such as forced labor, led to internal discontent. Discontent and rebellion, while externally the vassal cities of Damascus and Edom and stayed successfully revolts against his rule. The figuring crouching woman, Lebanon, 900 BCE. Let's look at it, and I think I mentioned this in a pre-record. Yeah. By now, the Amorites that were not part of Israel seem to have formed a federal state called Aram, and Aram settled in north central Syria. These people came to known as the Armenians in Damascus, and Edom being the city of Aram. But the central and northern tribes called Israel in a restrictive sense were especially gouged by the oppressive policies of Solomon. Soon after Solomon's death, the northern part Israel split off to become a separate kingdom. That is so true. The unite the monarchy thus became divided monarch of Israel. With Israel, the northern kingdom, and Judah, Yehuda, the southern kingdom. That's Benjamin and Levites, the three tribes that's on the south, and the rest of the tribes up north. Jeroboam the first king of his new state of Israel, made his capital first at Shechem, and then at Tazarzah, recognized the need for religious independence from Jerusalem. He set up the official sanctuaries at the Dan and Bethel in the two ends of his realm. This new Israel engaged in conflicts against Judah, sometimes fought jointly with the Judah against foreign powers. At the first, there was great dynastic and stable instability in the northern kingdom. Until the ascension of King Omri, 872 BCE, one of its greatest kings under Omri, an impressive building program with the initiating of the capital, the kingdom of Moab was subjugated, and amicable relations were reestablished with Judah, or Yehuda, the head tribe of Israel, as we can say. The Mesha Stele, the event's name only placed in this Mesha Stele correspond to those mentioned in the Bible. For example, Mesha is recorded as the king of Moab in Kings 3 and 4. Now, Mesha, the king of Moab, was sheep breeder. He had to deliver the king of Israel's 100,000 lambs, the wool of 100,000 rams. Chemosh, and is mentioned in numerous places in the Bible as mentioned national god of Moab. 1 Kings 11:33, Numbers 21 and 9, etc. The reign of Omri, king of Israel, is a chronicle in the Kings 16:6, and the inscription records of many places and territories, Nebu and Gadi, etc. But that also appeared in the Bible. Finally, 2 Kings 3 recounts a revolt by Mesha against Israel, to which Israel responded by allying with Yehuda and Edom to suppress the revolt. Now, Mesha, the king of Moab, was a sheep breeder, and he had to deliver the king of Israel 100,000 lambs and the wool of 100,000 rams. But when Ahab died and the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel, so King Joram marched out in Samaria at the time, mustered all Israel. And then he went and sent to the world Jehoshaphat, king of Yahudah, or they would say Jehoshaphat, but Jehoshaphat or Jehoshaphat, they would say here, King of Moab has rebelled against me. Will you go with the battle against Moab? And said, I will go as you are, as my people as your people, my horses as your horses. But then he said, by which will shall we have marched? And Joram answered, by the way of the wilderness and Edom. So the kingdom of Israel went in the kingdom of Yehudah and the kingdom of Edom. And when then the king of Moab saw the battle was going against him, he took within 700 swordsmen to break through an opposite king of Edom. But they could not. They could not. Then he took his oldest son, who was to reign in this place, offered him for a burnt offering on the wall. There he can have a great wrath against Israel. But then they withdrew from him and returned to their own land. Oh, the Misha still made to celebrate his victory. King Misha gives this account. Translation. Yeah, I mentioned this before in the pre-record. So, you know what I'm saying? The Misha still, it's a long read. I'm not going to do all that. I did a pre-record on that. So check that out. And Armenian king of Hazael and all that stuff. And then the Phoenician king of Tyre was made all through the alley marriage Armenian son of Ahab, Tyrian king. Ahab, 874, 853 BCE, and all that. Okay. Yeah. So that was number 4, right? Philistia. So this is part 1, y'all. So hope y'all get the meat of it. I'll do a part 2. It's going to be a long read. This is probably a short stream, so check these out, and I'll come back later. And yeah. So I'm gonna stop screen share. I'm gonna get into number 5 real quick, but we're gonna talk about the Black Obelisk and all that. I'm gonna keep it here. Yeah. This is part 1. I'll do a stream later to get in fact what's going on and whatsoever. And this is part 1 of my stream. So, part 2 will be the rest of Canaan. And I know it's going to be 5 and 6 and 7 when I read and do it. And then I may open up the panel. We can discuss what's going on. So with that, with y'all, I want to say peace and shalom.